Well, good evening and welcome once again to the LBJ Grasslands outside of Decatur, Texas. Tonight's exercise is a field test of the Fenix CL28R. Almost from the day that this product was announced, I had people practically hounding me for a review. Very difficult unit to get your hands on, so a big round of thanks here to Fenix Lighting for sending me this unit for evaluation and making the review possible. Now, I have reviewed other lanterns on the channel, and just like those reviews, this is going to be very heavy on actual use cases. Before I get there, let me very quickly go over the UI and the unit itself. So, underneath the rubber cover, you have USB charge, discharge. This is your red light control. White light control here. Might be easier to turn this over. So, on, off, dial in white light here and dial in color temperature here. Now, with the unit off, quick click of the red button and you get the battery indicator. Longer press, you get the red light. Quick click goes to flashing red. Quick click back to solid. Short press off. To turn the white light on, simply rotate clockwise. You'll hear a click, and then you can dial in the level of illumination from 10 to 2000 lumens. Hear the click off, back on. Color temperature, dial in here from 2700 to 6000. And to answer one question that was emailed to me, no, you cannot dial in a specific temperature. There are no increments. It's a continuous setting. Rotate back to off. If you turn the red light on and then rotate here, you can go from red light mode to white light mode. However, you cannot do the opposite. You cannot be in white light mode and then go to red. Turn that back off. You've seen this before. Tripod connection, magnetic. Let's go check that out. All right, this is not too surprising. That's not at all surprising. What I've always found interesting with anything that has a magnetic base, how well does it hold up if you have more of a textured surface? And there's your answer. All right, then, I'm going to wait for the sun to go down, and then we'll get to what you really wanted to see, and that is how well this light actually performs under realistic circumstances. I've often said that I don't camp, but I spend a lot of time around campgrounds, either doing product reviews or, as I'm simulating in this scenario, I'm staging gear, trying to get kitted out to ingress into an AOR, and sometimes I get called into searches very quickly, don't have a lot of time to organize in advance, so I get on site and I do my organization, and I have to work with whatever lighting is available, which in this case is what I get from my lantern. So I've got the CL28R on a field tripod, and the thing that I like is that I can move that tripod all around and I can direct the specific amount of illumination onto exactly what I need. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I want to get my bump helmet and headlamp set up. So, my big questions are, am I going to mount additional cameras or lights to this rig? What am I going to do with my PD25R? Am I going to leave it in a pocket, or am I going to clip it onto the headlamp strap? So I get that set up. I'll decide what lights I'm taking with me. Then I would probably move this field tripod over here and then set it up and have that CL28R angled down onto my ruck so that I can take out what I need to take out, put in what I need to put in. I've got my bump helmet on, I've got my headlamp staged, and if I need, straight on lighting in addition to that. So I really like this setup in the sense that it gives me a lot more options than I had with more traditional lanterns. But that's not the only thing I can do with it. Let's see some more examples. Let's take a quick look at what the lantern output looks like. That tree right in front of me is almost exactly 30 yards from my current position. I've got my headlamp in a low spot mode, so I'm going to reach down to the field tripod here and get the CL28R just barely turned on, headlamp off. Now let's crank that illumination up. There's max. Then I'm going to change the color temperature to warmest, and then to coldest. All right, let me show you a couple of additional examples of how I might use this light out in the field. All right, kitted out, ready to go. Another thing I like about the CL28R is that it's fairly light for its size. It packs very well by itself. Of course, my field tripod is light, so the two of them together fit very conveniently on the back of my ruck. So let's say I've been out searching for 2 hours. I find someone, they need medical attention, they're out in an open area. My headlamp is not quite good enough for the type of lighting I need. So let me show you how I would set up area lighting using this setup. All right, I found the person I was looking for. They're right here. They are injured. I have to provide medical attention, so I've already taken off my pack. I can dig in here, get medical gear. I've got the CL28R set up, angled right down where I need to work. I barely have this turned, not even halfway up. If necessary, I can angle it back up. More illumination, less illumination, angle it back down where I'm working on. Now, how do I use my headlamp in tandem with this? Well, I angle the headlamp up, turn it on spot, get my work down here. Then I can just simply move my head up and I have downrange spot illumination. Let's say when I ingressed here that I noticed eye shine out in that area. So I really want to keep an eye on what's going out there. That's what I'm using my headlamp for. And then I still have smooth, even illumination where I'm working down here. Well, I didn't know I would be in a race tonight. I've got to try and beat a thunderstorm, which is on its way in. So this is going to be my last segment. I've got the CL28R on a relatively cool mode, and it's turned up all the way, 2,000 lumen peak output. And searching is all about finding sign. And so I may have to break a large area into multiple small areas. And a lot of times I like to use two different lights perpendicular to each other. So I'll move out here. Let's say I'm searching this area in here. I don't want to blast this with so much light that I can't see fine details. So what I'll do is I'll set up one light across this direction. Let me turn my headlamp on in flood. Okay, so now I've got my headlamp on in peak flood. And so then I can move around and walk a pattern somewhat perpendicular to that light. And since I have two different light sources, this gives me something that's a little bit more akin to searching in daylight. Not exactly, but it's something that I will often do. And I can either, if it's a very compact area like we have here, I really like having a flood. Another thing I may do is if it's a larger area, I'll use something that has more throw. But having these two lights in opposite directions and then walking a pattern using the light, I may turn this light down, and now I'm looking at the shadows being cast in that direction. Does anything look obviously broken that I may not have seen from the other angle? Move the illumination back up. I'm still getting some shadowing. So it just gives me a different view than I would get from using one light by itself. So that's another example. Let me head back to the truck. I don't know if you saw the lightning there in the background, and we'll do a quick wrap up. And it's still going strong, even turned all the way up. I left the CL28R on max output. I have run it for another 10 minutes straight. Did not turn it off at all after the last segment. It is still going strong. Actually gives me an interesting idea for another video, and that is to bring it out here, put it on max output, set my camera up and film it like a 2-hour time lapse, but I'll have to do that. I don't know if you can see the lightning out there. When I'm not thunderstorm challenged, I need to get this stuff all torn down and packed back up. But yeah, very impressive. This setup here, as light as this is, as transportable as it is, this gives me some options that I did not have before. And so for me personally in search and rescue, this is going to be a very critical piece of kit going forward. For other purposes around the house, around the campground, around the work area, I could just see so many ways that this product could be used. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. If there are other beam shots you would like to see, let me know. And as always, until the next review, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for watching the video.